Have you ever been completely enchanted by someone who barely spoke a word to you? That person who draws all eyes when they enter a room, who makes time seem to slow down with their mere presence. What if I told you this magnetic pull isn't random chance but a calculated art practice throughout history by some of the world's most influential figures? Welcome to Story-Driven English, where today we dive into the mysterious world of the Siren, the first and perhaps most powerful character type from Robert Greene's infamous book, The Art of Seduction. In the next 20 minutes, you'll discover exactly how these master seducers captivate their targets using techniques that have toppled empires and rewritten history. Before we begin this journey into the depths of seductive psychology, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Why? Because unlike the fleeting attention of a siren, I promise our relationship will be one that actually enriches your life. With captivating stories that transform your English skills while revealing the hidden patterns of human behavior. So settle in as we meet Sofia, a modern siren whose story will not only improve your vocabulary and comprehension, but might just make you recognize the subtle seduction techniques happening in your own life every day. This isn't just a story. It's a glimpse into one of humanity's most powerful psychological weapons. Let's begin. The Siren. Waters of Enchantment. A story exploring the first archetype from The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Sofia Marino stood at the edge of the crowded gallery, a vision in midnight blue silk that flowed around her like water. She never rushed to the center of attention. Instead, she created a gravitational pull that drew others to her orbit. Tonight was the opening of the prestigious annual art exhibition in Manhattan, and everyone who mattered in the art world was present. Yet despite the room full of luminaries, Sofia commanded a peculiar kind of attention not through loud gestures or proclamations, but through her calculated stillness and mysterious presence. At 34, Sofia had perfected the art of being unforgettable. Her dark hair cascaded down her back in lustrous waves, her olive skin glowed with a perpetual radiance, and her movements were graceful and deliberate, never hurried. She sipped her champagne slowly, allowing the bubbles to dance on her tongue as she surveyed the room with her deep amber eyes. Those eyes people often remarked they held secrets of ancient waters, both inviting and dangerous. She knew exactly what she was, a modern incarnation of what Robert Greene called the Siren in his study of seduction archetypes. Sofia had discovered Greene's work in her 20s and recognized herself immediately in those pages. Rather than resist the classification, she had embraced it, refining her natural tendencies into an art form. In a world where everyone shouted for attention, Sofia understood the power of mystique, of creating desire through selective visibility and calculated absence. "Miss Marino," came a deep voice from beside her. "I was hoping I'd find you here tonight." Sofia turned slowly, allowing the fabric of her dress to whisper against her skin. She looked up to see James Harrington, the wealthy investor whose recent foray into art collection had made waves in the community. His reputation preceded him: brilliant, ambitious, and notoriously difficult to impress. "Mr. Harrington," she replied, her voice melodic and unhurried. "What a pleasant surprise." She didn't offer her hand immediately, creating the slightest hesitation, a moment of anticipation before connection. James's eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty unusual for a man accustomed to commanding every room he entered. "Your gallery's reputation is exceptional. I've been meaning to visit Marino Arts for months now." Sofia allowed a small smile to play at the corners of her lips. "We're quite selective about our exhibitions. Perhaps you'll find something that speaks to you. She didn't elaborate further, didn't launch into a sales pitch about her gallery or the artists she represented. Instead, she asked, "What draws you to art, Mr. Harrington? True passion, or merely investment potential?" The question caught him off guard, direct yet somehow intimate, as if she were genuinely curious about the workings of his mind rather than his wallet. This was Sofia's gift, making each interaction feel like a special discovery, an opportunity for authentic connection amid the shallow networking that characterized such events. "Both, I suppose," he admitted, suddenly finding himself more forthcoming than he'd intended. "I began collecting as an investment strategy, but I found myself increasingly moved by certain pieces. There's a vulnerability in great art that I find unexpectedly compelling." Sofia nodded, maintaining eye contact for just a moment longer than was customary before glancing away. Vulnerability in strength. That's a fascinating contradiction, isn't it? The most powerful art often reveals something fragile at its core. She spoke as if sharing a confidence, creating an invisible bubble around them despite the crowded room. The subtle scent of jasmine and sea salt that emanated from her seemed to emphasize her words, distinctive without being overwhelming, memorable without demanding attention. Everything about Sofia existed in this delicate balance, present yet elusive, warm yet somewhat unreachable. Before James could respond, Sofia gently touched his arm. "Excuse me for a moment. There's someone I must greet." Without waiting for acknowledgement, she glided away, leaving James with a distinct impression that their conversation had only just begun, that there was far more beneath the surface waiting to be discovered. As she moved through the gallery, Sofia was keenly aware of the eyes that followed her. The power of the Siren didn't lie in conventional beauty alone, though Sofia possessed that in abundance, but in creating an otherworldly aura, a sense that she existed both within the mundane world and somehow beyond it. Like the mythical creatures who lured sailors with their enchanting songs, Sofia drew people in not by pursuing them, but by suggesting through her very presence that following her might lead to uncharted waters, to experiences one couldn't find elsewhere. The gallery opening continued late into the evening, and Sofia remained its subtle epicenter. She conversed with artists, collectors, and critics, giving each her undivided attention for brief, intense periods before moving on, never allowing anyone to feel they had fully captured her. Throughout the night, she noticed James watching her from across the room, intrigued by the way she interacted with others, perhaps comparing their own exchange to what he observed. This was deliberate. Sofia understood the power of being witnessed, of allowing others to see her in different contexts without giving them the complete picture. The fragmented glimpses created curiosity, a desire to assemble the puzzle of her personality. As the crowd began to thin, Sofia collected her wrap, a shimmering fabric that caught the light like water, and prepared to leave. She had made no special effort to speak with James again, though she had ensured their eyes met occasionally throughout the evening. As she approached the exit, she felt his presence behind her. "Leaving so soon?" he asked, his voice betraying more interest than he likely intended. Sofia turned, her movement fluid and unhurried. "The night has its tides, Mr. Harrington. One must know when to follow them." Her smile was genuine but contained multitudes' warmth, mystery, a hint of private amusement. "I'd like to see your gallery," he said, more directive than questioning. "Tomorrow, perhaps?" Sofia considered him for a moment, her head tilted slightly. "We're closed to the public tomorrow. but I could arrange a private viewing." She took a small silver card case from her evening bag and extracted a business card, handing it to him with deliberate fingers. "Call my assistant in the morning. I have an opening at 4 o'clock." She didn't wait for his answer, didn't anxiously seek confirmation. The siren never appears eager or desperate. She creates the circumstances for desire and then steps back, allowing the other person to move forward, to believe the pursuit is their own idea. "Until tomorrow then," James said, accepting the card. Sofia smiled enigmatically and departed into the New York night, her figure silhouetted momentarily against the city lights before disappearing into a waiting car. The following afternoon, Sofia prepared her gallery with meticulous attention to detail. Merino Arts occupied a renovated industrial space in Chelsea, with soaring ceilings, exposed brick walls, and strategic lighting that created an atmosphere both imposing and intimate. For today's appointment, she had selected several pieces she thought might interest James, arranging them in a compelling narrative sequence that would require movement through the space, creating a journey rather than a mere viewing. At precisely 4 o'clock, James arrived. Sofia greeted him wearing a simple but exquisitely cut dress in deep emerald, her hair pulled back in a loose arrangement that emphasized the elegant line of her neck. She moved with the same unhurried grace that characterized her presence the night before, but here in her domain, there was an added dimension of command. "Welcome to Merino Arts, Mr. Harrington," she said, her voice carrying in the high-ceilinged space. "Would you like a glass of wine while we explore the collection?" James accepted, and Sofia poured 2 glasses of a rich red from a decanter she had prepared. "This pairs well with the artwork we'll be seeing today," she explained, offering no further elaboration, another small mystery to intrigue him. As they began to move through the gallery, Sofia revealed another aspect of the siren's power: the ability to create an immersive experience. She didn't merely show James' artwork, she crafted a sensory journey, speaking about each piece not with dry academic knowledge, though she possessed that in abundance, but with evocative language that made the art come alive. She described colors as if they had texture, spoke of artistic movements as though they were ocean currents, powerful and inevitable. "This piece," she said, pausing before a large abstract canvas dominated by blues and grays, "always reminds me of that moment when you're swimming in the ocean, and a wave lifts you. There's that second of weightlessness, of surrender to a force greater than yourself. The artist captured that sensation perfectly, don't you think?" James studied the painting with new interest. "I wouldn't have seen that before, but now I can't unsee it," he admitted. "You have a gift for bringing artwork to life, Ms. Merino." Sofia smiled, pleased but not overly so. "Call me Sofia, please. And it's not so much a gift as it is attention truly seeing beyond the surface." She moved closer to the painting, inviting him to do the same, creating a shared intimate moment in the presence of art. The most valuable things in life reveal themselves gradually, layer by layer. As they continued through the gallery, Sofia maintained a careful balance between professional expertise and personal connection. She shared occasional glimpses into her own relationship with art, a childhood memory of visiting the Uffizi in Florence, a powerful emotional response to a sculpture she'd encountered in Greece, but never enough to diminish her mystery. Each personal revelation was like a pebble dropped into still water, creating ripples of interest that suggested depths beyond what was visible. This was another lesson from Greene's archetype. The siren must remain partially unknowable. Complete transparency destroys enchantment. When they reached the final exhibition room, Sofia opened a concealed door. "This is my private collection," she explained. "Not every visitor sees these pieces." The smaller room contained artworks that were more intimate in both size and subject matter. Unlike the main gallery's carefully curated coolness, this space felt more personal, revealing a different facet of Sofia's taste and personality. "Why show me these?" James asked, genuinely curious. Sofia met his gaze directly. "Because you asked that question about vulnerability in art last night. These pieces explore that theme in ways I find particularly compelling." She moved to a small luminous painting of a woman standing at the edge of a turbulent sea. "This one, for instance, there's such power in her stance, but also such risk in her position. She's both commanding the view and at the mercy of those waters." James studied the painting, then turned to study Sofia with equal intensity. "It reminds me of you, actually." Sofia allowed a moment of genuine surprise to cross her features. The siren is not a mechanical seductress, but a being capable of authentic response before composing herself again. An interesting observation. Perhaps we all position ourselves at the edge of various waters throughout our lives. After they had viewed all the pieces, Sofia led him back to the main gallery, where she had arranged a small seating area with the remaining wine. As they sat, James leaned forward slightly. "I'd like to acquire several pieces we've seen today. And I'm interested in being added to your list for notification of new acquisitions." Sofia nodded, pleased but not overly eager. "Of course. I can have the paperwork prepared." She paused, then added, "But I'm curious which pieces spoke to you most strongly, and why. I always find collectors' motivations fascinating." The question redirected the conversation away from mere transaction and back to meaningful exchange, demonstrating another quality of the siren: the ability to elevate interactions beyond the mundane, to create moments of unexpected depth. As James began to explain his selections, Sofia listened with genuine interest. The paradox of the siren is that while she creates an aura of fantasy, her power often lies in offering something increasingly rare in modern life: undivided attention, authentic presence, and the suggestion of deeper possibilities. Their meeting extended well beyond the scheduled time, the conversation flowing naturally from art to literature, from architecture to travel. Throughout it all, Sofia maintained that delicate balance that characterized the siren: accessible yet somehow just beyond reach, familiar yet exotic, attentive yet self-contained. When James finally departed, having purchased 3 significant works and scheduled another meeting, Sofia remained in the gallery alone, contemplating the encounter. The siren's power came with responsibilities and risks. Greene's archetype was not merely about seduction in the romantic sense, but about creating a particular kind of influence, a magnetism that could serve various purposes. For Sofia, it was about creating a space where art could be truly seen and valued, where connections of genuine meaning could form against the backdrop of beauty. She had learned long ago that her natural inclinations toward mystery and aesthetic immersion could be harnessed not for manipulation, but for opening doorways to deeper appreciation. Over the following weeks, James became a regular visitor to Merino Arts. Each encounter followed a similar pattern: Sofia revealing just enough of herself to deepen his interest while maintaining the essential mystery that made their interactions compelling. She introduced him to artists he might never have considered, expanding his collection in unexpected directions. She invited him to private viewings and select gatherings, gradually bringing him into her professional world while keeping her personal life largely veiled. This selective inclusion is another hallmark of the Siren. Rather than overwhelming with constant availability, she creates moments of special access, heightening their value through contrast with her absence. During this time, Sofia also cultivated other important relationships in the art world. The gallery hosted a rising Spanish painter whose work Sofia had discovered during a trip to Barcelona. The opening night was a significant event, and Sofia ensured that James received an invitation, though she didn't highlight his attendance as particularly important to her. The evening of the Spanish exhibition, Sofia wore a gown the color of deep ocean waters, adorned simply with a single antique pearl pendant. She greeted guests with her characteristic blend of warmth and reserve, creating an atmosphere of celebration while maintaining her composed center. When James arrived, she acknowledged him with a smile but didn't immediately approach him. Instead, she allowed him to observe her in her element, discussing the artwork with genuine passion, speaking in fluid Spanish with the artist, moving through the space with confident grace. Later in the evening, as the crowd thinned slightly, Sofia approached James with 2 glasses of champagne. "What do you think of Alvarez's work?" she asked, handing him one of the glasses. "There's something almost musical in his use of color, don't you find?" James took the champagne, their fingers brushing momentarily in the exchange. "It's more complex than I initially thought. The first impression is almost overwhelming, but then you begin to see the structure beneath the vibrancy." Sofia smiled, pleased by his perception. "Exactly. That's precisely what drew me to his work. First the emotion, then the architecture supporting it." She gestured toward a particularly striking canvas. "That one took my breath away when I first saw it in his Barcelona studio. It was propped against a whitewashed wall with afternoon light streaming in. The moment had a kind of perfection I rarely encounter." This glimpse into her experience, offered like a gift rather than an obvious lure, created another layer of connection. James found himself wanting to visit Barcelona, to see the quality of light that had so moved her, to understand more about the moments that constituted perfection in Sofia's eyes. "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night?" he asked, the question emerging more abruptly than he'd intended. Sofia regarded him thoughtfully, taking a small sip of champagne before responding. "I'm afraid I have a previous commitment tomorrow evening." She didn't rush to suggest an alternative, allowing a moment of disappointment to register. Then she added, "But I'm available on Friday, if that suits you." This gentle resistance is crucial to the Siren's allure. Never too available, never too eager, she maintains her own rhythm and expects others to accommodate it rather than the reverse. "Friday would be excellent," James replied, trying to mask his enthusiasm. "I know a wonderful place on the Upper East Side." Sofia shook her head slightly. Another small resistance. "I'd prefer somewhere more unexpected. There's a small restaurant in Brooklyn Agua that serves remarkable seafood. The chef creates dishes inspired by coastal regions around the world." Her eyes lit up with genuine enthusiasm. The space itself is quite magical too, like dining in an underwater grotto. By suggesting the venue herself, Sofia maintained a measure of control over the experience while simultaneously revealing another facet of her tastes and preferences. The Siren doesn't merely respond to others' initiatives. She shapes experiences according to her own aesthetic vision. That sounds perfect, James agreed, intrigued by both the restaurant and Sofia's evident passion for it. Shall I pick you up, or would you prefer to meet there? Let's meet there, Sofia suggested. 8 o'clock. Again, maintaining her independence, ensuring that their meeting occurred on equal footing rather than creating a traditional date structure that might suggest conventional expectations. As they confirmed the details, Sofia was approached by another guest seeking an introduction to the artist. She excused herself gracefully from James, leaving him with the pleasant anticipation of Friday evening and the slight intrigue of her unspecified previous commitment the following night. What James didn't know was that Sofia's commitment was not to another person but to herself. Every week, she reserved certain evenings for solitude, for reading, for visiting museums alone, for swimming at her private club, for maintaining the rich inner life that fueled her external persona. The Siren understands that her power depends on renewal, on maintaining connection with her own depths rather than becoming depleted by constant social engagement. Friday evening arrived with a gentle spring rain that made the Brooklyn streets gleam beneath the lamplight. Sofia reached the restaurant precisely on time, neither early in anxious anticipation nor fashionably late. James was already seated at a corner table in the atmospheric space, which indeed resembled an underwater cavern with its undulating ceiling, blue-green lighting, and subtle water features incorporated into the design. Sofia approached, removing her raincoat to reveal a simple but elegant dress in a shade reminiscent of Caribbean waters. Her hair was loosely arranged, seemingly untouched by the rain, though she carried no umbrella. This effortless immunity to elements that troubled others was part of her mystique, not calculated, but observed and subtly cultivated over time. "This place is exactly as you described," James said as she sat down. "I've lived in New York for 15 years and never knew it existed." Sofia smiled, pleased by his appreciation. "The city constantly surprises me, even after all this time. There are always hidden treasures to discover if you know where to look." She accepted a menu from the server, adding, "The chef changes the offerings based on what's freshest that day, but if they have the Aegean base, it's transcendent." As they settled into conversation, Sofia demonstrated another quality of the Siren: the ability to be fully present. She didn't check her phone or scan the room for more important connections. She gave James her complete attention, creating a sense that their exchange was the only thing that mattered in that moment. "Tell me about your first significant art purchase," she invited. "Not the most expensive or impressive, the one that meant something to you personally." The question bypassed James's professional persona and invited a more authentic connection. He found himself describing a small watercolor he'd bought from a street artist in Paris during his university years, long before he had wealth or status. "It wasn't technically accomplished," he admitted, "but there was something about the way the artist captured the light on the Seine. I was homesick and nearly broke, but I spent my last 100 francs on that painting. It still hangs in my bedroom, though my interior designer is constantly trying to banish it." Sofia's eyes warmed with genuine appreciation for the story. Those are the pieces that matter most, the ones that speak to us beyond reason or investment value. She leaned slightly forward. "And you've kept it all these years, despite its humble origins. That says something important about you, James. This ability to see and acknowledge the authentic person behind the social mask is perhaps the Siren's most powerful quality. In a world of superficial connections, the offer of being truly seen creates a profound attraction." Their dinner extended for hours, the conversation flowing naturally between art, travel, childhood memories, and philosophical questions. Sofia shared stories from her own life studying in Venice, apprenticing with a master frame restorer in Florence, swimming in volcanic lakes in Greece but always with a certain restraint, suggesting depths beyond what was revealed. When James asked directly about her background, Sofia smiled enigmatically. "My mother was Greek, my father Italian. I grew up between worlds, belonging fully to neither and finding home in the in-between spaces." She didn't elaborate further, turning the conversation back to a painting they had discussed at the gallery. This selective revelation offering tantalizing glimpses of a fascinating history without providing a complete narrative maintained the essential mystery that fueled James's interest. The Siren understands that full disclosure diminishes enchantment, that humans are drawn to puzzles they cannot immediately solve. As the evening drew to a close, Sofia declined James's offer to see her home. "Tonight was lovely," she said, her voice warm but firm. "Let's preserve that perfection rather than extending beyond its natural conclusion." In the following weeks, a pattern emerged. Sofia and James met regularly but not predictably. Sometimes at the gallery, occasionally for dinner, once for a concert of ancient Greek music performed on traditional instruments. Each encounter deepened their connection while maintaining certain boundaries that Sofia never explicitly defined but steadfastly preserved. James found himself increasingly fascinated, not just by Sofia's beauty or her expertise in art, but by her entire approach to life, her mindful appreciation of sensory experiences, her unhurried pace in a rushed world, her ability to find depth and meaning in moments others might overlook. Meanwhile, Sofia's gallery prospered. James introduced her to several serious collectors from his business circle, and her reputation for impeccable taste and authentic passion for the work she represented spread throughout the art community. One rainy afternoon in autumn, James visited the gallery unexpectedly. Sofia was in the process of installing a new exhibition, photographs of underwater ruins from around the Mediterranean. She wore simple black clothing and had her hair tied back practically, focused entirely on the precise placement of each image. "These are extraordinary," James said, studying a particularly haunting photograph of a submerged Greek temple. "Who's the artist?" Sofia turned, surprised but composed. "Elena Makris. She's a Greek-American photographer who specializes in underwater archaeology. She uses only natural light and traditional film rather than digital technology." Sofia moved to stand beside him, regarding the photograph with evident appreciation. "She says digital cannot capture the particular quality of light filtering through water." "I think she's right." James nodded, then said with sudden decisiveness, "I'd like to take you to Greece, to see some of these sites in person." Sofia's expression remained calm, though her eyes registered surprise. "That's a generous offer, James, but I prefer to plan my own travels." She turned back to the photograph. "Besides, these images capture something one might miss even when physically present. Elena spends hours in the water, waiting for precisely the right moment when the light reveals something essential about these submerged worlds." Her gentle refusal maintained the essential dynamic between them. The Siren never allows herself to be fully possessed or controlled, never surrenders her independence to another's agenda, however appealing. James accepted the boundary with grace, having learned that pushing against Sofia's subtle limits only resulted in her becoming more elusive. Instead, he asked about the upcoming exhibition, and they spent the afternoon discussing the photographs and preparing for the opening. As winter approached, Sofia prepared for her annual December retreat. Each year, she closed the gallery for the week before Christmas and disappeared to an undisclosed location, returning renewed and refreshed for the new year. This practice was another element of her mystique, the scheduled vanishing, the deliberate absence that made her presence more valued upon return. At their last meeting before her departure, Sofia and James dined at a small French restaurant near the gallery. Snow fell gently outside, creating a cocoon of warmth and intimacy within. "Will you tell me where you go each December?" James asked, pouring her another glass of wine. Sofia smiled, accepting the glass. "If I told you, it would break the spell, wouldn't it?" She took a sip, then added, "Some things remain powerful precisely because they're kept private." James studied her across the table. "You're unlike anyone I've ever known, Sofia. Just when I think I understand you, I discover another layer." "Isn't that true of all meaningful things in life?" she replied. "Art, people, even ourselves, we're constantly discovering new depths if we remain curious." She held his gaze for a moment. "The day we believe we fully know something or someone is the day we stop truly seeing them." This philosophy formed the core of Sofia's power as a siren. She remained an ongoing discovery rather than a solved puzzle, a living artwork still in creation rather than a finished piece to be catalogued and set aside. When they parted that evening, Sofia embraced James briefly, allowing a moment of genuine warmth. "Enjoy the holidays, James. I'll see you in the new year." As promised, Sofia disappeared the following day. The gallery closed, her phone went unanswered, her usual haunts saw no sign of her. In an age of constant connectivity, this complete vanishing was both unusual and compelling. For James, her absence created space for reflection. He realized that in the months since meeting Sofia, his relationship with art had transformed. What began as status-seeking and investment had become genuine appreciation. Through her eyes, he had learned to see differently not just artwork, but the world itself. This is the siren's greatest gift. She doesn't merely attract, she transforms. By embodying a different way of experiencing reality, more sensual, more present, more attuned to beauty and depth, she offers others a glimpse of alternative possibilities. When Sofia returned in January, the city was in the grip of a fierce cold spell. The gallery reopened with a new exhibition featuring works in ice and light by a Finnish artist. Sofia herself seemed subtly changed. Her skin had a sun-kissed glow despite the winter season, and there was a renewed vitality in her movements. James attended the opening, finding himself oddly nervous after the weeks of separation. When he finally spotted Sofia across the crowded gallery, she was deep in conversation with an elderly man whom James recognized as one of the most respected critics in the art world. Sofia noticed James and acknowledged him with a warm smile but continued her conversation. Later, as the crowd thinned, she approached him, carrying 2 glasses of champagne. "Welcome back," James said, accepting the offered glass. "You look transformed." Sofia laughed, the sound musical and genuine. "Merely rested. Time away from the city always restores me." She clinked her glass gently against his. "To new beginnings and continued discoveries." As they reconnected, Sofia maintained that essential quality that had drawn James to her from the beginning, the sense that she existed fully in herself, neither needing nor seeking validation from others. Her absence hadn't been a strategic withdrawal to increase his interest, but a genuine requirement of her nature. The siren must return periodically to her native waters to renew her powers. In the months that followed, their relationship continued to evolve. James became not just a collector and admirer, but a true friend and supporter of Sofia's artistic vision. He helped finance a foundation that allowed her to represent emerging artists who might otherwise struggle for recognition. For her part, Sofia remained true to her nature, always present when engaged, never fully possessed, constantly revealing new dimensions while maintaining her essential mystery. She continued to create experiences rather than merely participate in them, to transform ordinary moments into occasions of beauty and meaning. One evening in spring, nearly a year after their first meeting, Sofia invited James to a special viewing at the gallery. When he arrived, the space was empty of other visitors, lit only by candles and the last golden light of sunset streaming through the skylights. In the center of the main room stood a single sculpture, a female figure carved from translucent stone that seemed to capture and hold the light, creating the illusion that she was composed of water rather than mineral. "It's called the Siren," Sofia said quietly, emerging from the shadows. "The artist created it specifically for this space." James circled the sculpture slowly, mesmerized by the way light played through and around it. "It's extraordinary," he said. "Almost alive." Sofia nodded, standing beside him to contemplate the piece. "The artist said something interesting when she installed it this morning. She said she wanted to capture that moment when something or someone is simultaneously present and elusive, solid yet fluid, known yet mysterious." James turned to look at Sofia, understanding the parallel. "Like you." Sofia met his gaze steadily. "Like all of us, potentially. We're taught to be knowable, predictable, easily categorized. But the most compelling aspects of human nature resist such simplification." She gestured toward the sculpture. "This piece reminds me that mystery isn't something to solve and discard, but to honor and preserve." In this moment of shared understanding, the true nature of the siren's power was revealed. Beyond attraction, beyond influence, it offered a kind of liberation, permission to remain partly unknowable, to exist beyond others' definitions and expectations, to maintain an evolving selfhood rather than a fixed identity. As they stood together in the candlelit gallery, Sofia and James had arrived at a form of connection that transcended conventional relationships. Neither romantic partners nor merely business associates, they had become companions in the appreciation of depth and beauty, fellow travelers in a world that too often prioritized surface over substance. Sofia Marino would always embody the siren, fluid yet powerful, present yet elusive, creating ripples of transformation that extended far beyond her immediate circle. Her gift was not merely the ability to attract, but to awaken in others a more profound way of experiencing the world, attuned to beauty, respectful of mystery, appreciative of the depths that lay beneath the surface of ordinary life. And in a world increasingly characterized by distraction and superficiality, this gift was perhaps the most seductive of all: the invitation to dive beneath the surface, to experience reality with all senses engaged, to discover the extraordinary within the seemingly ordinary. For the siren's true power lies not in manipulation but in revelation, showing others not just who she is, but who they might become when awakened to the fullness of their own senses and the depth of their own potential. Like the sculpture that captured light and transformed it, Sofia had shown James how to see differently, how to experience more deeply, how to recognize value beyond conventional measures. And in doing so, she had fulfilled the highest purpose of the siren. Not merely to enchant, but to enlighten. Not simply to attract, but to awaken. As the last light of day faded and the sculpture seemed to glow from within, Sofia and James stood in companionable silence. Two beings fully present to the moment's beauty, connected by mutual recognition of life's deeper currents. This was the siren's true domain, not the shallow waters of mere attraction, but the profound depths where genuine transformation becomes possible, where enchantment leads not to possession but to perception, where seduction in its highest form becomes an invitation to see the world anew. Key vocabulary, repeated throughout. Siren, a mythological creature known for luring sailors with enchanting songs. In The Art of Seduction, a person who creates an otherworldly, fantasy-like presence that draws others in. Enigmatic, mysterious, puzzling, difficult to understand or interpret completely. Allure, the quality of being powerfully and mysteriously attractive or fascinating. Mesmerize, to capture someone's complete attention as if by magic, to spellbind or enthrall. Ethereal, extremely delicate and light, seeming to belong to another world, otherworldly or celestial. Calculated, carefully planned or considered. Deliberate rather than spontaneous. Mystique, an aura of mystery, power and fascination that surrounds a person or thing. Elusive, difficult to find, catch, or achieve, tending to escape one's grasp or understanding. Immersive, providing deep engagement by creating a surrounding environment that feels real or complete. Captivate, to attract and hold the interest and attention of, to charm or enchant. Sensual, relating to or involving gratification of the senses. Appealing to physical or emotional feelings rather than intellect. Enchanting, delightfully charming or attractive, casting a spell or creating a sense of wonder. Fluid, able to flow and change shape easily. Not fixed or rigid, adaptable and graceful in movement. Presence, the quality of having a powerful, confident, and attractive personal impact when with others. Archetype, a very typical example of a certain person or thing. An original model after which other similar things are patterned. And that concludes our story of Sofia. A modern illustration of The Siren from Robert Greene's renowned book, The Art of Seduction. I hope this story not only helped enhance your English skills but also provided fascinating insights into psychology and the art of influence. If you found value in today's story, perhaps your fingers might gracefully drift toward the like button below. It's a subtle way to let us know you'd appreciate more content like this. Your thoughts in the comment section would be a precious source of inspiration for us. Have you ever encountered or embodied a siren in your own life? Which vocabulary from today's story did you find most useful? Leave your impression below. And naturally, if you wish to join Story-Driven English on our journey exploring language and culture through captivating narratives, gently touch the subscribe button. Consider it a delicate promise between us. Don't forget to share this video with friends who are learning English or interested in applied psychology. True seduction isn't merely about appearance, but about how you tell your story. Until our next story. This is Story-Driven English, where language meets the art of living.